complete anti-Semitic tirade. I mean, she really hates the Jewish people. This Illinois attorney, she got fired from she was serving in the comptroller's office. These are the types of people who are paid for by your tax dollars, by the way, because that's how we hire people in that office. We pay their salaries, right? They work for the state. This woman was paid state taxpayer money, and she is a straight up anti-Semite. I mean, I'm just going to say one thing that she said in these messages, and you are going to be like, no way. This woman was serving as an attorney in the comptroller's office. Yes. She said Hitler should have eradicated all of you. That's just a highlight, folks. There's so much more. That's what she said in some text messages or social media messages. We're going to get to that story here coming up in just a little bit. William J. Kelly joining me on the line. You guys can see us live, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Every Monday, we kind of go through things, all things Chicago. Real quick, before we get into Chicago things, just your reaction, William J. Kelly, to the Illinois comptroller.
Before you even tell me what, I'm just going to react.
Okay.
I'm going to cry and then I'm going to laugh. I don't know. What am I going to do? Okay, what am I reacting to?
Well, this comptroller woman out of the Illinois comptroller's office. So the comptroller Mendoza, she says that she has the zero tolerance policy for anti-Semitism and hate
disgrace.
Speech.
Absolute disgrace. Mendoza is, the problem with the comptroller's office in general is that it flies completely under the radar. A lot of Republicans, sadly, take the attitude that, that it's not a sexy office. They only care about president, U.S. Senate, maybe governor. They don't care about what they consider to be little offices like comptroller, treasurer, secretary of state. They just give these offices to Democrats like it's somehow beneath them. Well, guess what? The Republican Party in Illinois really needs to contest this Mendoza comptroller. Most people don't know who she is. They don't know that Illinois even has a comptroller. There's no doubt about it. This Mendoza needs to have some kind of a challenge. There needs to be some kind of scrutiny there. If people even scratched the surface of the comptroller's office, they would discover, there would be so many red flags and questions about millions of dollars spent on COVID masks and God only knows what else that she's just throwing our millions and millions and millions of dollars at, completely unaccountable. It's a disgrace, Kat. Mendoza, in my opinion, is a disgrace.
I agree. And you're so right. People just kind of throw these offices to the side. But what people don't know is that comptroller, Susan Mendoza, she has an entire staff underneath her. And this is one of these women who have come out and she has said crazy things like Hitler should have eradicated them all when he had the chance.
Insane.
He said vermin. She said in these messages, these are screenshots, these are receipts, and the office has a zero tolerance. That's what Mendoza said for anti-Semitism. Are you sure? Because zero tolerance would have meant that you wouldn't have hired her in the first place, probably. But she says vermin should have been killed decades ago. Hopefully someone sends you anthrax. She's saying this to a Jew, and she says, or poisons you and you die a slow, terrible death. I mean, these are the types of people that your money, because she has to pay her staff. And where does that money come from? Comes from you, the
Mendoza
taxpayer.
has an office in our state capitol building, our historic, beautiful state capitol building down, in Springfield, Illinois, which I love. I love going to Springfield. I love Saputo's, the restaurant. Every time I've ever been, I'm a little bit of a history nut or nerd or whatever you want to call it, as you probably know. I love walking the streets of Springfield, and it just makes me sick to think that Mendoza has an office in our beautiful state capitol building. She has
Yep.
a parking spot right out in front of the state capitol building with her name on it, and nobody even knows what she's doing in that office or all of our where all the money's going. And
Well,
this is
she's
yeah.
hiring anti-Semites. That's what she's doing.
And on top of it, here's the other thing, Kat, and this is why Republicans really need to start caring about these offices. The comptroller signs all the checks. I mean, if you want to control spending in the state of Illinois, elect a fiscally competent comptroller. Sorry,
Hmm.
I'll shut up now. I'll shut
No,
up
but
about
you're
the
so right.
comptroller.
It was an important story, and I mean, I brought it up because she also, the woman that was the anti-Semite, said all of these crazy things. She also got terminated from her position as the president of the South Asian Bar Association of Chicago. So, I mean, she's lost her job, which is great, and
Oof.
I'm so glad, but it should have never happened in the first place, and I'm sorry if you can't smell out a rat like that one, as Susan Mendoza, then you are just not competent enough to be in that position.
We
I
need
mean,
Mendoza out. Mendoza out.
yeah.
Period.
Well, what else is going on in Chicago?
What
What's
else?
the crime look like over the weekend? Like, how much
Well,
blood was spilled over the weekend?
well, there you go. Crime and migrant news out of Chicago. I was born and raised in Chicago. I love Chicago with all of my heart, and it breaks my heart that Chicago is known for two things: a violent crime crisis and a migrant crisis. And when you say blood spilled, you're right. I mean, dozens upon dozens of people. By the way, thousands of people shot, murdered, completely unsolved. So technically speaking, you've got people who have gotten away with murder walking past you on the sidewalk every day. We're seeing an increase in people shooting back. So I know some people call that good news. I think it is really a horrible byproduct of the total and complete breakdown of law and order in the city of Chicago. There was a story about a woman on the south side of Chicago, Morgan Park, very close to where I was born and raised. She was an attacker came at her with a knife. She pulled out a gun and shot him dead. Um, you know, technically speaking, I call that good news. Okay, people, but it's really sad when people now in the city of Chicago can they just take it for granted that they can't count on the police. They are their own first responders, the only thing that's really worrisome is that Democrats like Pritzker want to take away that woman's gun. They don't want her to have a gun. They want men to be able to chase after women on the South Side with knives.
Mhm,
They don't want women to be able to pull a gun out and shoot them. Kat,
mhm.
this is the kind of leadership or anti-leadership that we have in the city of Chicago. It's despicable. It makes
Yeah.
my skin crawl. As a reporter, I'm just reporting the news, who, what, where, when, how, and why. But as a human being, the fact that Democrats they want to disarm this woman. What would have happened to her had she not had a gun, Kat?
Mm. I know. Well, and they come after you when you defend yourself, and
Yeah,
you become a victim of a crime, and your likelihood of becoming a victim of a crime is so high in Chicago, right? I
right.
mean, and once you become a victim of that crime, I mean, forget about getting your FOID card, your CCL, your concealed carry. There is no way you are going to be able to get a gun because you were a victim in a crime. Because for some odd reason, I mean, the Illinois State Police, the state of Illinois, they find out everything. If you were a victim of the crime, they'll deny you a
They're
FOID card.
criminalizing. They're victimizing the victims. They're criminalizing the victims. And speaking of that, if you want to shift gears, there's a really disturbing story out of Chicago from last week of a Chicago alder woman named Julio Ramirez, Alderman Ramirez. She crashed a rally. There was a rally of her residents, mostly Hispanic, ironically enough, that were having an anti-migrant rally. They do not want these Venezuelan migrants in their ward, right?
Hmm.
She crashed their rally. And then when they started shouting at her, she accused them of attacking her. So this is starting to become a pattern. Okay, I believe it started under Lightfoot when she accused me. When I was asking her questions about violent crime, she revoked my media credential. She said that I was out of line, that it was wrong for me to be asking her these questions and being so dogged about trying to ask her questions about multiple mass shootings occurring every weekend. And so she revoked my media credential. I've been in federal court ever since, racking up my own legal bills trying to get my First Amendment rights back. But this is now I see that this alder person is doing the exact same thing to her own residents, accusing them of attacking her. And here's the thing that really made my stomach turn. Mayor Brandon Johnson and Governor Pritzker both issued
Yep.
statements saying that it was wrong and how horrible it was, how despicable and horrible it was that the people of that neighborhood were yelling at their alder person. You know what? I don't remember Johnson or Pritzker issuing a single press release or statement about the rapes, the robberies, the murders, the carjackings of real Chicagoans. Not
Yeah.
one, not a single one,
No,
Kat.
they continued to downplay it, and I'm so glad you
Yes.
brought that up because I actually saw this story not last week. I saw it, and I saw the statement, and the way Pritzker phrased his statement, I kind of dismissed it because I was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
she get beat up, and I was like, well, she's out of
Yeah.
Chicago. I'll look at it later. The way he framed that statement, you would have thought that this woman was beat up viciously by these people. Shit.
Far from it.
Not,
I looked at the video, Kat, and I did not see any violent attack. I didn't see any battering or assault or people
they
get
yelled
all
at her.
they yelled at her. And I mean it really is. I'm telling you right now, I genuinely believe this because it happened to me, and that it's going to happen. I believe it's going to happen to a lot more people as we get closer and closer to 2024. Um, the uniparty, it's almost a Democrat and Republican thing now. What they are going to do is shut down any citizen who wants to question them by criminalizing them, by
Mm.
saying that they are a threat, that they are right-wing extremists, that they need to go to prison, that we need to send them away and have them re-educated. This is it would have sounded crazy, even I don't know, a few years ago. But these are the words that are coming out of our politicians, our elected officials' own mouths.
No, and I think you're so right. They're going to start to take it a step further. Now, I'm sure I've actually never told you this story. I mean, I almost got sued by this Republican, so-called Republican. He's Andy Byers. He gets funding from Republicans, Democrats alike. It's a uniparty type member, and he's just a councilman here in the town of Normal. Recently got elected. This was prior to him getting elected. Um, and I was just kind of checking it out. I asked him the question, William. I asked him, "Hey, I see here that you didn't complete your, I think it was ethics, sexual harassment training, and under law, if you're a lobbyist, he's a lobbyist. Under law, you're supposed to complete those trainings in order to lobby in the state of Illinois."
One nation under lobbyists.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and he got elected, which I think is odd in and of itself that we can elect lobbyists, that lobbyists can
Insane.
hold public office. I think that that in itself is kind of strange because you work for a company. I mean, he works for like Recall Strategies, which is a group that tries to lobby green energy, right? And green energy companies, those are their clients, their top clients. But it says right there, on the Illinois site. I mean, this is, coming from the Secretary of State who, files all of this trainings. He didn't complete it. So all I did was ask him, hey, uh, Why didn't you complete it? Did you
Hmm.
complete it? Is it on them? Did they not, and then, William, you will not believe it. The
I believe
next
it.
day, I was sent all kinds of things from their Chicago attorneys, from their lawyers, saying that I needed to. Oh yeah, yeah, and their pockets are deep. So I think that has, like, people are saying, like, that didn't scare me, and neither did Mayor Lori Lightfoot. In your case, you said, you know what, we're gonna sue you for taking away my freedom
Yeah,
of speech. That didn't scare me. I ran with the story anyway, and they did nothing.
right.
So they're starting to realize that those tactics don't scare us anymore,
Well, there's
and the next step is
yeah,
to
you and
jail.
I are very, very, very few and far between. I mean, you literally you can count us on like one hand of there's very few people. Most people will just be quiet. They won't say a word. And
Mhm.
but that has to change. We need to let people know that they do. First of all, a lot of people I think it was Ronald Reagan who said freedom is one generation away from extinction. And trust me, Kat, they have done a great job of essentially um, miseducating a whole new generation of Americans into thinking that asking questions that they don't have a right to free speech, that they don't have a right to ask questions. We were
Mhm.
raised, I mean, God bless them, as tough as the nuns were on me. They endlessly said the only dumb question is the question you don't ask.
Yeah.
They were saying ask questions. They were
Mhm.
so I grew up thinking, well, I better ask questions. This is my duty. It's almost a responsibility to ask
Yeah.
questions. But no, I'm telling you, going into 2024, especially in Illinois with the Democrat National Convention coming, it's going to be very, very dangerous to ask powerful people questions.
Mm.
And here's a kind of an interesting migrant related news is that they're getting, after my report, I don't know if you saw it on the Fox and Friends from O'Hare International Airport. They now Pritzker wants to move the migrants out of the airport because he is afraid that when the VIPs, the money Democrat, the money Democrats, yeah, it's the Democrat National Convention, so I might as well call them what they are, Democrats, come to Chicago, that they're going to see the migrants, that they're going to have to step over the migrants. They're concerned, get this, Kat, what a bunch of pampered, privileged people. They're concerned that they might catch scabies from the migrants. Scabies, yeah. Oh no! I mean, by the way, I don't know if you're familiar with scabies. I don't know if you know what, but you don't. Believe
Yeah,
it or
it's
not,
like from,
yeah, they have
pirate times.
migrants sleeping at police stations in Chicago, and they've had to shut down police stations due to scabies. So,
Wow.
so yeah, so that is once you get scabies, it is an ordeal. I mean, you can't go out. You have to like head to toe creams and shampoos for
Yeah.
for weeks on end. If you have family members, even even children, the same head to toe ointments, and then you have to like go through all of your clothes, maybe even throw all of your clothes out. So I mean, this is what people are afraid of in the city of Chicago now, at airports. And by the way, movie theaters. Go if you sit down at the airport and you sit there for any period of time, you may be taking scabies home with you wherever in the city, the state, the country, or the world. You might be bringing scabies home with you from
What
O'Hare International.
century is this? What century
Exactly.
are we living in? William J. Kelly, we've got to go take a break really quick, but thank you so much, veteran Chicago reporter, feared and despised by Mayor Lori Lightfoot, Emmy Award-winning producer William J. Kelly. Find him on social media, folks, and WilliamJKelly.com. Contribute to his legal defense against Mayor
Reporter
Lori Lightfoot. Reporter,
WilliamJKelly.com.
reporter WilliamJkelly.com. You have
Thank
a
you.
great rest of your day, William.
You too, Kat. God bless you.
We're going to be back, folks, on the other side. This is the Morning Buzz, City